Purpose question. Why did white American settlers sign treaties, and why did the Dakota sign treaties? Treaties were handwritten and signed by U.S. government officials and American Indian leaders. Those Dakota who did not write signed the papers with necks. These are the final 2 pages of the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux. I learned that motivations for treaties, land for each Dakota. When it came to signing treaties, some Dakota felt that they really had no choice. They saw how powerful the U.S. government was and worried it would take over their lands no matter what. Treaties would allow them to reserve at least a portion of their land and control their own future. To some, establishing a reservation where the Dakota could live as they wanted was a reason to sign treaties. The Americans also had reasons for wanting to make treaties. Many believed that their nation should expand across North America. They considered Minnesota an important part of that expansion, but they could not legally settle on American Indian lands unless treaties were signed. Alexander Ramsey set out to convince the Dakota and Ojibwe to sell their land. In a speech to the territorial legislature, Ramsey proclaimed that Minnesota was destined to become the land of American settlers. I feel a conviction that this country, once thrown open for settlement, would be peopled with a rapidity exceeding anything in the history of Western civilization. I learned that the Dakota signed treaties because the Americans signed treaties because money. Dakota. The Dakota recognized the fur trade was ending. Many of them believed that the annuities they would receive by signing treaties would allow them to buy the blankets, tools, and food necessary for survival. The Dakota elder Iyangmani, known to the Americans as Running Walker, was among those who believed it was necessary to deal with the U.S. government. The Great Spirit does not smile. He growls at us. Something does not suit him. Our cornfields, where are they? Our young men cannot hunt. The powder in our rifles is wet. It will not burn. We kill no game. Nothing. I learned that the Dakota signed treaties because, in addition, some Dakota were in debt. Debt is something that is owed, such as money, goods, or services. They needed to pay back what they owed to the fur traders. The fur trade was not as profitable as it had been decades before. The pelts the Dakota brought to the fur traders were not worth as much as they had previously been. The money received would no longer pay for everything the Dakota needed and wanted. American traders such as Henry Sibley used their kinship ties with Dakota to pressure them into signing treaties that would help pay off those debts. I learned that the Dakota signed treaties because Americans, the fur traders, were also in debt. In past years, money from the furs brought in by the Dakota had covered the cost of goods American traders purchased. As fashions changed, the demand for furs dropped, and so did the price. In the 1830s and 1840s, Sibley and other traders were going further and further into debt. These American fur traders had several reasons for encouraging the Dakota to sign treaties. If the Dakota agreed to a treaty, they would receive an immediate cash payment. Sibley and the other traders planned to get some of this money. Then they too could pay off their debts. The traders also saw an opportunity to make money buying and selling land that would be available once treaties were signed. I learned that the Americans signed treaties because Sibley was Minnesota's most powerful fur trader. He also served as Minnesota's territorial representative in Washington. He played a major role in the treaty-making process and wrote, "The Indians are prepared to make a treaty when we tell them to do so. No treaty can be made without our claims being first secured." A fur trader and politician, Henry Hastings Sibley played a major role in Minnesota's economic and political development. I learned that the Americans signed treaties because lifestyle. Dakota. The Dakota could see their homeland changing. Newcomers were arriving to the region in large numbers, bringing with them a different way of life. Unlike the fur traders, these people wanted to settle. Some Dakota saw treaties as a way to preserve some of their land. They believed having a reservation would provide them a place to continue their traditional lifestyle. It would be land that newcomers could not settle on or control. It would be Dakota land forever. I learned that, and the Dakota signed treaties because most Americans believed the Dakota should adopt European American ways. The government planned to use some of the annuity payments from treaties to teach the Dakota new skills and ways of life. Often this was achieved through the work of missionaries who also